Eyebrow 101 Ultimate Study. As a licensed esthetician of 11 years, I have been performing eyebrows from coast to coast around the world, and I'm utterly obsessed. So I think I'm pretty qualified and one of the best people to show you how to properly arch an eyebrow. Here are just a few products that you could use to perform an awesome eyebrow arching. We have tweezers, scissors, I have a double-sided brush, brow gel, pencil, brow eraser, powder, a highlight color, a concealer or a highlight tone cream, and a brow cream. So when I get a client in my chair and I get to brush their eyebrows, that's the first thing I do. I want to see how long their hairs are, if they need a trim. Now please note that in America, you are not allowed to remove hair or cut hair unless you have a license. And a lot of times when I go in to maintain my client's eyebrows or an actor's eyebrows and I bring in the scissors, they stop me for a bit because they've had makeup artists who have gone and trimmed their eyebrows and messed them up. If you are not properly trained, do not do this. I'm going to show you so that if you feel so compelled to trim someone's eyebrows, you at least have some awareness. So you wouldn't necessarily have to trim her eyebrows. They would be okay. This is more for those clients that have those wiry ones that's sticking around, and I brush them up and see all of that free edge hair. So here's the line of her eyebrow. Don't even go near it. Just pull that hair up and so gently, and I'm not doing it in one swoop, I'm doing it in little increments. I'm almost pretending like I'm cutting each hair individually. Just a couple there. So it's still in that line. I'm not cutting any of the front ones. And then I brush them down. And I cut the hair in the direction of its growth. Because if you brush this down and tried to cut it, and you cut it there, you could give her a line in her eyebrow. And I don't think that she would ever return to me if I did that to her. So same at the edge. Now I'm brushing this way because these hairs are growing this way. Very far out. Again, I would not normally even bother to trim her eyebrows. Well, I would because I'm obsessed, but she doesn't need it. This is more for my pleasure than for her. Even though it does benefit her, she doesn't need it. So I'm brushing that hair in the direction of the growth. Just those little ones, not these ones way down here. Just so slight. And your scissors have to be top notch. When you get scissors that are below par, what happens is you go to cut those hairs and they slide off of the scissors. When you have good scissors, and these are probably like $50, I've got scissors that are in the hundreds, they're no joke. Because that hair will stay in place and just glide off of the scissors. So just a quick little trim just to show you how to do it if you feel so compelled, but you better be really good. And don't, so that my clients aren't afraid when I go to trim them. Okay, so I brush them up, I brush them down to see if there's any crazy hair. I call it the sweater test. When you take off your sweater, are there hairs around here? When you put on a sweater, are the hairs, she could even use a little bit more. But I'm gonna move on. When you have eyebrows like Alyssa's, they're full. She doesn't have any sparse spots. There's not much to really fix. So what I'm gonna do is, I wanna show you guys how to use creams. And what's so great about creams is that it really sticks to the face. And if you were just using powder, it really can just fall away. So what I'm gonna do, and you could do it with pencil as well, I'm gonna really show you, so pretend that Alyssa had no hair or spots of patchiness or her eyebrows were really thin and she wanted them to look really thick, but still looking real. I'm just gonna touch the base. I want them to be parallel. I want this line to match this line. You can already see that this line's going like this, and this one's going like, It's so slight, but you need to pay attention. I want her eyebrow to go a little over her tear duct, and I want it to go after the eye. So hers are a little short if we were studying the principles, doing the principles of design. And I start at the front, at the bottom. I'm not going to put too much color in the eyebrow. She's got plenty of hair. And now I'm going to start making this parallel. So it's like I'm just touching her skin with the color. I'm not even touching it with the brush. And creams and gels, see how this goes really short? I'm going to elongate it. I want this brow to go around this bone. I want it to wrap around this bone. And it's okay if you make the tails a little darker, because when you're looking straight on at someone, the light is hitting the sides of their face and it can look like they have no tail at all. But I don't want this to just be a line. That looks strange. I have to build that tail and make it a little thicker and have it wrap around evenly. It's okay if I make it a little silly right now, just so that I can get, sometimes I have a tendency to make the brows curl in, so I combat, and know your weaknesses, know what your common mistakes are. Even though I've been doing this 11 years, it's something I do. And I need to remedy my own habits. And I'm not afraid to admit it. Learn through my mistakes. See how we've just made her eyebrow look like monumentally bigger than her natural brow. But it's already starting to look natural. It's not looking crazy. I'm not doing that trend where it's lighter here and then it gets darker. This is for people who want to look natural, because a lot of your clients aren't going to be these trendy, kids. They're going to be real women that want real looking eyebrows. And I leave this open-ended. I don't want to see this defined box here. I want it to be like how hair naturally just appears and flows. And now I'm not pressing hard. I'm just lightly tapping out the color. Then I'm going to go over it with a corresponding powder to set it. And I'm pressing it into the parts of the eyebrow that have the least amount of hair to get all that color off. I want this to be darker. I'm going to use my pencil. Pencil is my favorite eyebrow medium because it's fast and it's really easy to use. So see how it just kind of, it all starts the same and it flows down into a point. It's not considerably thin here. It all flows and moves together. And this looks natural. You wouldn't really look at her and think that her eyebrows are super dark or so jarring. They're taking over her face. They're the most noticeable thing about her entire face. They still flow, even though they look robust and full and absolutely amazing. So I'm going to do the same thing, but with the pencil on the other side, not the cream. And now we can see this brow is just a little bit rounder. It has this fully expanding look to it. And when we compare it to the other side, her eyebrow, it kind of has like a slight dip into it. It's very minuscule, but noticeable in comparison to the fullness of this eyebrow. And then you could see that this just stops real short and it has just a little tail. Her eyebrows are great. They're amazing. We're just playing with them and giving her a completely different look to show you how you can make eyebrows look considerably fuller or more full and make them look natural. So I want to make sure that these parts start the same. So one isn't like, one isn't, then the middle part is the same. Both of them have the same width. and then that the edges are the same way apart. So I'm going to start, instead of going down, I'm always using round strokes because I want this eyebrow to be a frame. And I imagine that the irises of the eye are like little pebbles in a pond, and the ripples are going out in a diamond shape. And the eyebrow is an outer part of that ripple, and it's round and it's full. It's not squarish. So I want to make sure that the thickness, see, I can already tell that I'm drawing it in a little thin in comparison to how I did this one in this little area. And you don't have to make them 100% symmetrical, but making them look as similar as you possibly can is the goal. So this arch isn't a hard edge, it's a round edge. This is going to be a little more harsh, and then this is going to curve in. And then I'm not going to make any defined lines here. I don't want that. One way to know if they're symmetrical is if, so the tails, for example, if they were both coming out at a similar angle, would they intersect if you drew lines in the middle of the face? Would they intersect at their angle in the middle of the face, or is one going more like this and one's going more like that? Where does it cross? It needs to cross in the middle, here, here. And are these parallel? Or is this line going this way and this line going that way? These are the things that you pay attention to. And the more you practice, the more you see it. And just doing little exercises like that just help you to balance and check your work. But eventually, you'll just know. You can see when it's off. You can see when this is wrapping around higher, or the arch is, the falling action is in a different spot. You'll be able to see if the brows are too far apart or too close or too arched and you needed to soften it. You'll start to see these things. Now I'm going to go in with my powder to set it. And just a quick little tip about this brush, how it's a double-sided. As a professional makeup artist, I do not like double-sided brushes. This is one of my few that I have, because when you go and you put it into your brush case, the bottom of your handles get pretty dirty, and I just don't like my brushes touching the bottom of my brush case or anything like that. I don't want to put a brush straight down into the pocket of a brush holder. So I'm just filtering my brush through the eyebrow, making sure that it's fluid and there's no patchiness, and just blending it till it works. And then I can go into the edges and the sides with my brow eraser, just to give it this real clean, defined look. And it'll clean up anything that, you know, maybe if it's smudged, or just see, like, get that real tight right here. You can also use those for lip liner. And then it gives a little bit of like a primer without changing the color. You could also use a highlight tone, a primer, a regular eyeshadow primer, and I can go in with my shimmery shadow or my champagne tones. I'm not a big fan of white. I like it to look a little more natural, but it depends on what your look is. Most of the highlight is just going to go right here, but I like to filter it through. So in closing, and there is so much to say about the eyebrows that I could never close, but I will do you a service. Keep the eyebrow the lowest point here, highest point here, and even at the tail. Keep it blended, keep it looking natural, and keep practicing.